Good afternoon, everyone, and it's nice to be back. And for those who are watching from different time zones, good morning or good evening. My name is Marilyn. I'm the CEO and founder of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learner and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co-creating customized programs with our world-class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony Mobile, ProLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. Expert says that the pandemic will last for the next 3 to 5 years. And this is why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the new normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and of course, for those business owners who are afraid that they can't keep their team or their business. And to be able to stay relevant, do continue to lead effectively in any situation. Do follow us and join us with several interventions that we do. And for today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader and one of my friends as well. Edith Sola is the CEO of Wycliffe Philippines, and in concurrent capacity director of strategy and communications of Go Shopping Philippines. Edith has more than 3 decades of experience in business and professional practice. 22 years of which has been have been an extensive corporate and entrepreneurial immersion in marketing, communications, business planning, and strategy formulation. Edit held BOD functions, and CEO positions spanning across industries, particularly in the communications and information technology sector. She held policy directions, oversight, and advisory seats for various private companies, government, and non government entities, and rendered consultancy services to the Philippine Computer Society, trademarked Singapore and California Mart, SAP, NEC, Fujitsu, Syngenta, among others. As an internationally accredited advertising and PR professional, she has her stint in global brand introduction and expansion, diversity marketing, and cross-border project implementation for corporations and projects around Asia, the Pacific, the EMEA region, as well as the US and UK. She held a tenure of 3 consecutive terms as a director of chairman of the Educational Committee and the chairmanship of the prestigious Anvil Award of the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in Edith. Hi, Edith.
Hi, Marilyn. It's good to see you again.
Yes, it's my pleasure to have you here, and it's nice to see you. If Just to give a background on how we actually met for
In the
our
plane,
audience,
right?
yeah, we actually met in the airplane. We were sitting beside each other, where my son is like having his
Oh,
show
yeah. It was fun,
going on.
actually.
It was like I think a year then.
Or a little more. That was before
Yeah.
the pandemic, right?
Yes, correct. So we the last. I mean, we now he's 4 years old. So
Wow.
we met like about 3 years ago, and I'm glad to see you again. And hopefully, when things are better, we can have our usual dinner or coffee like we did.
Dinner or even just coffee together. So,
Exactly. Yes, yes. So let's start to jump in on the questions. So basically, the first
make
three
it easy,
questions.
okay?
Definitely, it's gonna be so easy for you with the experience you had and the
Thank you.
expertise you had as well. So basically, the first three questions is for us to understand from which perspective you're coming from, and then the 4 to 6 question will be, I would say, the meaty part where we will learn so much from you, and
Mhm.
the 7 to 8 question will be our Miss Universe question.
Wow.
Yeah, so to start with, please do share with us your leadership experiences, your influencers, probably if you have like, a favorite leadership style, or an influencer that you'd like to share with us.
Well, to that question, I would say that I really don't have anyone in particular that I can look up to say that, he or she is my role model. But I've seen a lot of leadership styles
Mm-hmm.
in all my years in the corporate world and even outside. Leadership is actually everywhere. It's
Mm-hmm.
really not just in the corporate marketplace, but everywhere. And
Exactly.
they come in different shapes and forms. However, from my experiences, leadership to me is really something that cannot be underestimated. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all know that, okay? But many people think they are no leaders just because they don't assume high positions. Everyone is a leader.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you take control of everything and anything, you turn out to be leading other people. You will have to walk them through, you will have to show them how, and even in the family, the headship is I mean, usually our society in the Philippines is a bit matriarchal, and in other
True.
societies, it's not so the normal thing to look at is that headship belongs to the husband or the father of the family. Okay. In the corporate sense, the leader is someone who is the ultimate decision maker. Okay. The leader is someone who could uh, be acting with energy and purpose and having the ability to influence people so that these people that look up to him or her is able to act positively along the same line of purpose that the leader sets. Leadership to me is decisiveness and taking calculated risks. You see, you cannot measure everything.
Mm-hmm.
If anything should go wrong, it will. We know that. And the leader must exude strength of character, professional prowess, a good amount of
Mm-hmm.
business sense. Without that, I mean, you're not supposed to be in business after all. But all of this are superimposed by a certain value in the person's character. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me is authenticity and courage.
Mm-hmm.
this the these things that people must emulate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, but I just feel like it should come from my heart.
Definitely. And that's what we really hope for, right? For our audience to, or listeners to, also have. I mean, because at the end of the day there's no right or wrong answer in
True.
here, because basically it's your experience, that you're sharing with us. And in fact, I really love what you've shared earlier, that you don't really have to have that C-level position to be called a leader, as long as you take control of anything and anyone, or even yourself, in fact, right?
True.
You are
The most
actually a
difficult to
leader.
control.
Exactly. And you probably have answered my next question to you.
Is
That
that so?
uh, my next question is, what is leadership for you? You made mention earlier that leadership is about taking calculated risk and exuding that certain character of authenticity. If there's anything more that you'd like to add in terms of how you would define and what is leadership for you, feel free to share with us anything more.
I think my the qualification of a true leader for me is
Mhm.
one who welcomes change rather than resist it. Some
Mhm.
people, I do change management consulting, and what
Mhm.
I find very difficult in my professional experience is when you're talking to a CEO who's closed minded, who
Mhm.
would rather not see what needs to be changed and
Mhm.
impose on a very hard stance about
Mhm.
what he believes in. What's funny is when you see the picture of the story in the folklore about the emperor's new clothes. It's so difficult for some to even take a look at what needs to be changed,
Mhm.
especially themselves. And
True.
even up to this day, there are business leaders who are in that category. Sad to say.
True.
Okay, so a true leader to me should look at change and face up to it because you have no control about everything. If anything should happen, it will. We know that. But of course, I mean, there are anticipation of changes, and I can discuss this as we go along because I too am a crisis manager consultant.
Mhm.
More often than not, uh, people or business leaders fail to realize that uh, changes can evoke or can consequently uh, produce crisis or crisis paths because changes happen sometimes if we or more often than not when we are not prepared and we don't look at it from a very positive perspective, things can develop into critical paths.
Mhm.
So in change management, we always look at how do we anticipate things so that we can mitigate crisis.
Mhm. Yes, and I'm really glad that you opened it up that, being a leader is being able to open to change. And as we all know, that change is the only constant, right?
It's true.
And if you're not open to having that change, basically like what you've said, change within you or in your current opinions or even knowledge or the things that you do or even habits, right? Then it will be difficult for you to be really an effective leader, right? Because like what happened now during the COVID-19 and up until now, right? With all the restrictions going on, with all the
Yes.
things that we can't really do that we used to do, we can't really expect that things is gonna be normal or the to expect that the previous normal will be coming soon or coming back for that matter, right? And we really have to evolve. And speaking of that, how would you actually define and describe the next normal? I mean, we've been hearing a lot of about new normal, next normal, whatever you want to call it.
Well, the next normal is here and now as we
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
You know, Oh, there's constant change every day. And,
True.
this term about the new normal, the next normal, has been a byword of many people, many sectors. But I don't think a lot really understand
Mhm.
uh, the concept because nothing is normal when it's changing.
True.
It's no longer as before. So therefore, it doesn't it doesn't evoke normality anymore.
Mhm.
There are changes in between. And because there are changes, then it's not. you are not supposed to face up to it in the same way you had
Mhm.
yesterday or
Mhm.
last year.
Mhm.
You have to look at what changes are there for you to, that confronts you, for you
Mhm.
to handle or develop, the course of action that you should
Mhm.
have as a leader. The
Mhm.
situation now is so unprecedented. We never expected this pandemic to be affecting the entire world.
Mhm.
Okay, we had dark ages in the past, and there were black plagues, but
Mhm.
only contained in some areas, not the entire world.
Mhm.
This time, it has affected all of us.
True.
No country, I think, is ever able to say they are exempted, because no one is exempted now.
Mhm.
Um, of course, we expect even more escalations. And talking about the next normal,
Mhm.
uh, events will pile up, and we can never anticipate what next.
Mhm.
We can only have a good guess, but to say that we will be able to define it exactly, I don't think so. Hence, from this point onwards, we
Mhm.
should be ready to anticipate changes even more and uh, prepare. Uh, it's wrong to be a preppy, to be always thinking about the negative side of things and say, "Oh, I have to prepare because this thing will happen. War will break out.
Mhm.
Famine will." Ish. It's not preparation at all. That is actually panic. That is panic. And there's no need for panic in this time of calamities.
Mhm.
We in the Philippines are so used to having natural calamities
Yes.
that our people have become resilient. But again, I'd say resiliency should be coupled with looking for opportunities to not just survive, but improve our lot.
Mhm.
And even during calamities, we see, and I really appreciate this in our people, that we see beyond the calamity. We
Mhm.
are able to produce uh, tactical moves and actions that help ourselves and other people. Even the most unnatural, uh, leaders, quote unquote, small leaders in small communities, they are able to do something, to think of creative ways
Mhm.
to overcome. And this is wonderful. In a much bigger sense, we all have to be looking at opportunities for change,
Mhm.
for better, and not, look at crises as something uh, that makes us desperate, makes us
Exactly.
frustrated, unable to move, and we get paralyzed, and we just wait to be dead. So even in business, that should be how we should look at everyday challenges.
Mhm. True, true. And like what they say, right? Crisis is about also like looking at it not only as a challenge but also an opportunity for us to
Opportunity, right?
and
Chinese
again.
people, they say, are good at it because their word for crisis and opportunity are the same. I don't know if I'm correct though.
Yeah, it's actually the character. When
The
you write
character,
the character, the Chinese character actually has two meanings. It's both a crisis and an opportunity as well. That's
yeah,
what. one of the person I've interviewed in actually shared with me.
Yeah, I
And
hear that too.
again, like, like what you've said, is so difficult to define the next normal or new normal, whatever it is. But again, like from what are we are experiencing for the last year, right? We've been seeing a lot of changes, a lot of difficulties, and at the same time opportunities as well, right? And it's about time for us. I mean, as we know, change is always here. So it's just about how you can actually adapt and evolve, with that. Because I mean, I would say that that's one of the silver linings as well of having COVID-19. Well, I'm not really that happy that it has happened, but then I mean, if you have to look at it in a on its light, or on the silver lining, it has actually given us the more time to reflect, to do on some of our passion projects, and to go out of our comfort zone, like what I'm doing right now. I mean, I'm not really that comfortable being on the camera, speaking and interviewing people live some more, but I'm doing it because I know that people are getting value out of these conversations, right? And with the hope that this message, or the sharing would actually at least inspire some people to change, or to adapt, or to be better, right? In some ways, like what you said, that's the goal, is in fact to be better, to make this a better world as well. And before I ask you the next question, I just would like to say hi to Christina Wu, to Ali Foroki, and to Korban Lashari. Thank you so much for engaging with us. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name correctly, but I hope I did give justice to that. So, moving to the next questions. We've made mention that you, in your introduction, that you have 3 decades of experience both in the corporate world, working as a corporate leader, and working with corporate leaders, or even government and non-government organizations. So what would you say are the top 3 problems that most leaders do face?
Number one, crisis. Number two, crisis. Number three, crisis. For everything actually evolves into a crisis when uh, things are not all right, you know. Uh, it is the most difficult thing to even imagine
Mm-hmm.
while working on a project that something will go wrong, that someone actually destroys something, or that, the computer crashed.
Mm-hmm.
It's, things can happen, and that usually is what people are afraid of. I think I'm exaggerating, and I'd like to exaggerate by saying number one, crisis, number two, crisis, number three, crisis. But there's a purpose in me saying that. I'm saying that since we've talked about us leaders not having control over
Mm-hmm.
changes and challenges of the future because it's beyond us. Therefore, we should anticipate crisis. In
Mm-hmm.
whatever we do, we should think about what will become out of this. Is there a critical path? Is there is there something that I can prepare for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, in crisis management, what gets into the minds of people is that, or even especially leaders, is that they will cross the bridge when they reach it. I should say when they reach it. When there's no crisis, everybody's just like, complacent. But especially for crisis-prone industries like food, uh, hotel services, uh, aviation, you know that any moment, any spur of the moment, a crisis can erupt. So
Mm-hmm.
why not prepare for it? Usually, I tell my clients, you have to have a crisis manual. And they say, huh? What is that? You have to determine where your soft spots or your weak links are in the organization. You have to determine how you are going to mitigate crisis when it comes. Hence the anticipation. It's not being pessimistic. It is being real. It's being, you know, uh, uh, prepared. You have to anticipate where we can go wrong and then mitigate it even before the actual crisis comes, so that there's not much to restore after things are destroyed. There's a saying, it takes years to build your reputation,
Mm-hmm.
personal or corporate. It takes years. The brand takes a lot to create,
True.
okay? But it takes a snap of a finger to destroy it. No way, why wait for that time? After building and spending so much energy and resources, it gets hit. And when it gets hit by whatever, everyone just doesn't know what to do. And then they begin to find, solutions right then and there, when those solutions should have been already in place if the anticipation was done.
Mm-hmm. That's really yeah, that's really beautiful. I would say, like, I would, say that you are right that a lot of companies have not really prepared, or like, I mean, but COVID-19 is really very different.
Governments too, by the way.
Sorry.
Governments too, by the way.
Exactly. And I think nobody is really prepared for what has happened recently with the COVID-19, right? But again,
Mhm.
like what you said, it's all about, being able to anticipate and mitigate crisis, right? Being in, at the top of their toes even before something wrong happens, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
and that's, I guess, like, I mean, even like people or companies who already have like some crisis management in place, in fact, with COVID-19, like, where everything is different from the, rest of the pandemic, really, like, um took everyone like, oh, what's happening, like, clueless of the situation, right?
That's true.
But again, like, those who have the right mindset, those who are, really always resilient, or like thinking through of or creative enough to, like, okay, what should we do next, what should we do differently, and how can we actually address this, what's happening, like, how can we still continue to lead effectively, how can we lead a remote team, how can we how
True.
can we still continue to serve our clients, even though we have all these restrictions going on, right? And so that leads me to the next question. From, we've actually talked about the top problems for leaders. So what do you believe, or what are the important leadership capabilities and skills now that, leaders must have in the next normal, or even, in crisis and in times of crisis, to be able to, continue to lead effectively?
To me, actually, there is no difference between leadership qualities of before and leadership qualities of now,
Mm-hmm.
because there also are, um, no difference even in the future. They're not
Mm-hmm.
It's It's qualities. It's the
Mhm. Mhm.
qualities, the same qualities of decisiveness,
Mhm.
purposiveness, authenticity. What changes with time
Mhm.
are tools and techniques in approaching challenges for leaders. So if you have cultivated the right values as a leader, there's no need to change. All you need to look at are uh, possible changes in the way you do things, in the tools that you use, in the people skills that you have employed. Maybe training is one thing, and you'll be glad I'm mentioning this. Maybe the skill sets have to be developed, redeveloped if need to. So when you ask me about leadership capabilities and skills, I'd say skills, yes, you develop further. Capabilities, yes, you have to develop that. That's why there are leadership development programs.
Mhm.
But the qualities of a leader remain the same. It doesn't change with time. It can further develop into something positive, but the positive capabilities or attributes of a leader are still the same. It is uh, there in the heart of hearts, in the value system of the leader himself.
Mhm. And of course, I would agree with you that I love what you've said about learning and continuous leadership
I'm
development.
sure of that.
Yes, and that's actually the way to go when it comes to, adapting to the changes and being agile enough, because there are things that happen that, we can't control, and we don't know. And the only way for us to be able to adapt to it, to be able to manage it or mitigate the risk, is mainly for us to be continuously learning and improving, right? And I like what you've said as well about, it's been there. I mean, whatever leadership values, qualities, capabilities, and skills that they must have, it's always, having that decisiveness and authenticity. And because without this, it will be more difficult for them to express themselves, to inspire and influence more people, right? When it comes to leading teams, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. And so we've actually talked about leadership, about transformation, and the usual change that we are also experiencing on a constant basis. And so what do you believe is the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in order to thrive in the next normal?
Well, technology is here for us.
Mm-hmm.
In technology, I think I think God provided this development to prepare people,
Mm-hmm.
to prepare. If we all believe in that ultimate power that is beyond men, then
Mm-hmm.
that should be God. Okay, so He allowed technology to develop even before the pandemic. Can you imagine how life is going to be for us now if we
Mm-hmm.
can't talk this way, if we can't reach each other through Zoom and StreamYard and what have you, or FB Live? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
meetings are being done virtually now. People are working online. We
Mm-hmm.
are buying things online.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if these technology advancements were not are not present today. Where are we going to find ourselves? We will
Mm-hmm.
go hungry on lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot reach uh, the source of food. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot during the lockdown, it made me feel so sorry for many people. I think about the less fortunate whose houses are a 2 square inch, and two families or even more live in it, because in the slums there are situations like this. Can you imagine being locked down that way? But let's lay that aside. Let's go to the ordinary home and the ordinary office. A lot of us actually have gone hungry because there's no source of income.
Mm-hmm.
Worse, if the situation is that you have money to buy, but you cannot reach out. I mean, you can't go anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and food cannot get to you. What will happen? Are you gonna eat grass because you have no source of food? I mean, this is so naive, okay? I mean, it's too elementary. But what I'm saying is, let's be, um, you know, let's talk simply here without being simpletons. Just simple things. But let's derive from the simple things, wisdom. Thank you that technology is here, and technology keeps developing so that we can continue and even prosper in the future.
Mm-hmm.
if if not for technology, the, I can imagine the worst, the worst sadness in the hearts of people,
Mm-hmm.
the most difficult loneliness and starvation.
Mm-hmm.
But even the poorer of our society are able to do something because they have phones, they have smartphones, and they can reach out to people, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So for me, it is important that we have to be thankful to the architects of technological advancements. That's one. The other one is, um, again, we go back to how resilient people should be, or people must be in times of trouble. When spirits give up so easily, um, you get you get to be really frozen where you are. You can get to a place or a plane that will provide you an opportunity to escape the dreariness of the situation.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm right hearing from you, I mean, because the question is, what's the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in thriving in the next
Okay,
normal? So
thank you for that. I think I lost, I drifted away from your question. Uh,
it's okay, but we were saying that, in connection with this, I mean, like in the current situation right now, where we had technology advancement, despite of the situation, being able to leverage on technology, as well, learning about technology, I would say, and having that transformation as well, right? Is like one of the things that has saved us and kept us sane
Upload, yeah.
during this moments of lockdowns and all those stuff. So what do you believe will be the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in order to thrive in the next normal?
Yeah. Okay, let me answer that question now squarely. Um, well, even if there's technology,
Mm-hmm.
even if it is there right in front of you, if you do not know how to use it, what good
Mm-hmm.
is it? So part of leadership is identifying what kind of tools,
Mm-hmm.
technological tools to use, what kind
Mm-hmm.
of processes to be improved,
Mm-hmm.
what what setup has to be transformed into a better one.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to go through this process, uh, businesses have to continue to learn. Why is there continuous education, developed by many business leaders and transformative agents?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because nobody stays where they are. I mean, we all have to move forward. What's the way forward? But to keep learning so that you find, not just pebbles in the sand, but gems maybe, pearls maybe, you know. So for a person or an organization to be transformed, leaders must continue to observe and learn from, you know examples of others,
Mm-hmm.
and continue to build a program for uh, improving skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
and not just skill sets but values as well. When I was in consulting work in my younger years, one of the things that I handled was values clarification. and and it really was a very enlightening course because you'd think people know what their values are all the time. No, they don't even realize. Some of them don't even realize that the values they have upheld for so long is not exactly what would help them in the future.
Yes, true.
you know so so it, learning should never end. I think it's
Yes.
a cliche already to say you continue learning for life, because um, it is a never ending thing. You learn from observations, you learn from emulation, you learn from people's experiences, you learn from programs and development interventions,
Mm-hmm.
so that you may be able to move to the next level.
Yes, very true. And that's part of being able to transform and thrive in the next normal, to continuously learn and improve at the same time. And of course, implement what you learn. And again, that's also like, this I would say the silver lining of when COVID-19 hits, right? Where most people are actually like able to reflect in terms of what really matters in my life, right?
True.
That's where emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and other resiliency has increased in terms of mental health as well, and really like working more on the soft skills and well-being of the team as well, right? Because last time I don't think a lot of these are uh, being balanced or look into before this happened, right? And and that's part, it's not all about the skills like what you've mentioned. The values, the soft skills is also important, right? I know, I mean, I've been in the training and consulting industry as well, but that's what I've noticed. We've done a lot of technical programs mainly because it's being prioritized without
Mm-hmm.
really having that um, conversation whether like is this enough. And in my recent interviews, in fact, it came out like, okay, so even though the skills is really good, it's high, but if the attitude is not there,
True.
it's not really gonna break through, right? Or transform. It will be difficult to transform, I would
Yes,
say.
Marilyn. Actually, businesses must adapt an excellent business processes, yes, and
Mhm.
yet it has to be coupled with sound corporate values. The
Exactly.
impact of recent events, now we're
Mhm.
talking about the pandemic most
Mhm.
especially, should
Mhm.
be driving business owners to align, priorities, budgets to support organizational development,
Yes.
and All of these alignments
Mm-hmm.
should conform with the vision, the values, the goals, and the success mentality of everyone in the organization.
Exactly. I totally agree with you in that, and I love that you have stressed that out as well. So moving to the next question, last two questions. If you have
You
a
mean
magic
the
wand,
Miss Universe questions
yes,
already?
my yes, we're actually moving to the Miss Universe question. So the first one would be, if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it? Feel free to share with us why.
Magic wand. Although I don't believe in magic, I would wave it and let it land on the heads of many leaders who are um, lost along the way. I would make it also land on the head of, you know, um, politicians who can seem to realize that the future of the nation is in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
I will also use my wand to create magic in the minds of those who are wallowing in frustrations and distress. Like magic, maybe the state of mind will change from sadness to hope, even if it's not yet truly gladness, but at least a ray of hope.
Mm-hmm.
The wand is uh, going to work, I think, in a way that will make them wake up to the reality that if they remain pessimistic and do nothing about it, they are in deep trouble. They are going to be destroyed, if not die. I mean, these are all superfluous terms and crazy. But yes, if I have a magic wand, I will really make sure I use it in the right places and on the heads of the people that needs it badly.
Yes, true. And I'm glad, even without the magic wand, we're already like, hoping to um increase that hope, and also to inspire more leaders, whether they're from the government or private sector, that to know that the future is on their hands, like what you said, right?
Right.
And our hope is that they look into their values, and do better things to make the world better as well, right? And so that
True.
leads me to my next question, which is, and next and last question, that
Oh,
if you
thank
were
you.
to
Is that last?
yes, if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? What question would you ask yourself
Wow.
that you can best
Wow.
answer?
That's the most introspective question that you've ever thrown today. I'd like to ask myself, what have I done so far? What have I done right? And what have I done wrong? We all know that no one's perfect in this world, but I really would like to reflect on my own shortcomings rather than look at the shortcomings of others and answer my own questions. If if I look inwardly, I see a lot of things and I become a more authentic person. I become a more decisive person. I become purposive because I will strive to improve my weak areas, my
Mhm.
areas that needs to be changed. So I'd really just like to add to ask myself those questions. What have I done right? What have I done wrong?
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing that question with us. A very important question, I would say, to ask ourselves, right? Because sometimes it's all about what are we actually asking ourselves with, and what are we, what are we doing to make a difference and to, raise that hope for others as well. So thank you so much, Edith. Is there any other message that you'd like to share before we end this interview?
Well, I probably just share one statement, and
Mm-hmm.
it's that we should welcome change as a rule because it is constant, but we should not allow it to rule us.
Thank you so much for that message. And again, thank you so much to for your authentic insights that you've shared with us. And of course, I thank also our audience, especially those who've actually engaged with us. And if you're watching this on a reply, feel free to comment, and send your reactions and love to us. And so do join us in this journey to again fight the pandemic that caused challenges, and let's all turn this into an opportunity through several interventions like this interview. And probably we're going to have a mastermind on Friday. Do visit our website on how you can actually register for that. And do remember that even the richest investors in the world says that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to end this interview with a quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again, Edith. And looking forward to our next, meet up and
Meeting.
interviews as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye for now.